सर्वस्तरदुर्गाणि सर्वो भद्राणि पश्यतु सर्वः सद्बुद्धिमाप्नोतु सर्वः सर्वत्र नन्दतु सर्वेत्र सुखिनः सन्तु सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात्। ॐ नमो भगवते माहेश्वरी स्वाहा। एतत् पाद्यं श्रीमीनायै नमः।
I'm going to fill the gap until people come in. I will also give you a little bit of a roundup of what happened in the last few days. Some of you know, some of you don't. Is it clear? My sound coming out. So, you know that today we are going to be having poetry session by Sudeep, who is an internationally acclaimed poet. But before I introduce him, as we are waiting for a few people who are on their way, I want to just give you a quick roundup of what has happened in PLAF, Pondicherry Literature Art Festival, where we had it for 1.5 days. We started with healing, because we thought healing to start a festival with healing is a new and a good idea. After that, we had a series of musicians which included Mahesh Ram, Shashank, Krishna Swami, and Hariharan. And the next, and then of course Sudeep recited poetry, a poem that was favorite for his grandmother, which he recited. So that was, in a sense, the beginning of PLAF 22. The next day was something that was really very, very interesting. We had combined, in fact, conflated poetry, Sriaurindo's poetry, Sriaurindo's prose, a lot about Subramaniam Bharati, and which extended itself to music, then dance, and then improvisation on the spot. And the interesting thing about this festival was, which we co-curated, it's been said, was that we were able to, as I said, conflate literature with art. Because I sincerely believe that art is something, and artists are something who do something. They are the forerunners of the future. And literature, of course, is something that can give you balance. So healing, and then raising the level of art consciousness. So that's what PLAF did. Of course, it had many more sessions. One of the highlights of the session was the buy-off, bring your own poetry, where people brought their own poetry and shared. And then in the evening we had a group discussion, because the title of the festival was Towards the Essence. And Sudeep will say more about it, because emotions, how the emotions are being haywire, so why not have a talk on the Navarasas and the emotion, how to be able to be aware of emotions. Then we talked about several other things which Sudeep might touch as we go through the evening. I think I will be happy now if Sudeep allows me to get down to the poetry sessions. I will, before I invite, why don't you come already, Sudeep? Today the evening is going to be poetry, but it's going to be more than one lingual. It's going to be in French, English, and Bengali. Sudeep being a poet, and in fact, Sudeep just finished writing a beautiful poem after having visited the Nathi Mandir. I would have printed it, but I said let it be a surprise for another event that might come. But maybe he'll read that. He's very inspired, right from traveling from Bangalore till now. I'm just waiting so that nobody comes, so I'm just talking a little more than I should. Generally, I don't want to. We saw we tried to look at the Arunachala, which we were never able to see. And you used the beautiful word. What was it? The Invisible Mountains. And I'm sure there's a book that might come out on the Invisible Mountain written by Sudeep Sen, because we looked for the Arunachala and we could not see, because there's a lot of other things that took our attention. After the poetry reading, and because his works have been translated by well-known translators, after that we will have a surprise. I mean, most of you know that Seema Massot, who is the winner of Saregamapa Little Champs, he will be performing for around half an hour with his winning songs. We've already done the sound check, the guitar is there. So with this, I request Sudeep to please come take over, and I hope we'll have a very inspiring evening. The last sentence, which I should have actually told first, is that this is in celebration of Sri Aurobindo's 158th anniversary. And all that we are doing this year is a total dedication to the Divine Mother and Sri Aurobindo. With this, Sudeep, please, my friend.
It's so lovely to see so many familiar faces again. So this is the third time some of you will be hearing me. So I apologize if I read some poems which have been asked of me to read, which you might have heard. To start with, that we will have two short poetry films. I collaborate a lot with dancers and musicians and artists. In fact, my next book is called The Whispering Anklet, Fire. So it's 35 years of my obsession with classical music and dance. So it's a poetic response to dance, or dance performances, or dancers, or aspects of dance, or any place with poetry and dance touches each other. It's about that. And then the two films you will see, one will be, I just published this book, Anthropocene, which is here, which came out last year and this year. And an American songwriter and singer followed me on Zoom, and she, I kept on seeing her in the audience. And then I got an email from her saying, I've got the book, I really like it, and can I make some songs out of them? So of course, say yes. And she has produced this wonderful, wonderful album called That Is. It's on Spotify and so on. We play that one. So we play two films, Silence and then That Is. And then I'll come back. We need to kill all the lights.
After a long concert and after dinner, I find myself unexpectedly with you in my room. In this new space, finding oneself is wonderful. I was here and not here at the same time. Later, I felt as if I had entered a story of an old familiar novel, a character I knew but had not met in flesh until now. You, me, and my winter's dream. Our mattress is the wide ocean, the crushed sheets, the waves. We sail together full blown. But during your long absences as our ships are docked on different shores, sometimes the bed dreams. I imagine the wet breaking the anchor loose, defying gravity, current, and electricity. As photons propel and burn, even the wild salted expands into a monument, a desire, permanent like the ocean bed, its pulses uncontrollably rocking. The waters, the bodies, the dreams. Silence has its own subtle color. Between each breath pause, heat simmers latent saliva, tongue entwined lisp. Here and there, errant clouds wait, yearning for rain, desire melting even silence to words. Words' color bleed incarnadine as your lips whisper softly the secrets of your silence. Your fine chicken blouse, white, sheer, and almost transparent, cannot hide the quiet of your heartbeat on your wheat olive skin. The milk-white flower adorning your hair sheds a solitary petal. Just one. In that petal, silence blooms color. White, transparent white. Pure white silence.
The poem Silence was already in the film, if you remember. I can read it out again. And then you'll get a French version after that from this is Seema Massot and Satyakam. Silence. Silence has its own subtle color. Between each breath pause, heat simmers latent saliva, tongue entwined lisp. Here and there, errant clouds wait, yearning for new rain, desire melting even silence to words. Desire mending even silence to words. Words color bleed incarnadine as your lips whisper softly the secrets of your silence. Your fine chicken lows, white, sheer, and almost transparent, cannot hide the quiet of your heartbeat on your wheat olive skin. The milk white flower adorning your hair sheds a solitary petal, just one. In that petal, silence blooms color, white, transparent white, pure white silence.
Silence. Le silence a sa propre et délicate couleur. Entre chaque inspiration, le chaud m'étonne, la salive latente, cheveux sur la langue. De ci, de là, des nuées errantes patientes, aspirant à la pluie. Désir fondant, même le silence en nous, la couleur du verbe saigne. Incarnat, quand l'air murmure les secrets de notre silence. Ton chemisier en infini, Roderick chicken blanche, quasi transparente, ne peut cacher la quiétude de ton cœur battant sur ta peau blé olive. La fleur blonde de lait ornant tes cheveux, lâche un pétale solitaire. Un seul. Dans ce pétale, le silence éclot de couleur, blanc, blanc translucide, pur silence blanc.
Because you hear the sound of a lone rustling leaf, you hear the sea. Because I consider the sea silent, you hear its silence in my studio. And because of that, the silence will not empty the sea of its leaves. And because of that,
Mama Baba, because I've single fathered him as a mother and father for many years. So I sent this poem to him, and he of course responded saying, "Oh no, Dad, one more poem."
How old is it?
Oh, he's older than me. He gives me gyan every day and tells me how incompetent I am. But he said, I don't have a clue as to what this poem is about, but I really like it. So I was very pleased that at least his aesthetic nerve was tickled, and that's enough, it's good enough. So this is how the poem was before it became a song. A person who I haven't met, actually, Heather, and her husband was a sound engineer. They live in Oregon, and she's actually extremely well known, which I only got to know later. That is because you hear the sound of a lone rustling leaf. You hear the sea. That is because I consider the sea silent. You hear its silence in my studio. That is, and because of that, the silence will not empty the sea of its leaves. So the poems she's reading in French are the poems she's chosen actually for the book, so it's her choice. This is actually a series of poems from a sequence called Gaikar Chithi, notes from a singer's score sheet. And I'll read another one because you picked another poem from this. This is called Question. Question. Your body scent and strands of long, night-kissed hair left on my pillow. Broken blouse buttons on my bedsheet. A disengaged lone eyelash curved, left behind as a question mark. Reflecting quicksand mirrors of time. My answers live in your punctuations.
Question. Ton odeur corporelle et de longs cheveux, embrassés la nuit, gisant sur mon oreiller, des boutons cassés de corsage sur mes bras. Un cil solitaire, indifférent, recourbé, point d'interrogation, abandonné. Sable mouvant, traître miroir du temps. Mes réponses logent dans tes ponctuations.
This is a very, very old poem. It's interesting what you chose actually, because she had the whole book and then she picked all these poems out, and it's a particular type of poetry, of course. This one's a very old poem called Glued. It's to do with love and relationships, of course, but it's actually a transcendental kind of union, something that you all will understand extremely well through Mother and what we do. So this one sort of fits quite nicely. Glued. Glued together we lie, incurably conjoined, just as the sky and the earth are joined by an indeterminate horizon. So are we, made one by an indeterminate fate.
Collés, ensemble, allongés, incurablement conjoints, tout comme le ciel et la terre sont joints, par un horizon indécis, de même nous, unis par une foi indécidée.
You don't have to be so French. Clap for her. বাংলা কবিতা হিন্দি মধ্যে তো ওয়া ওয়া করে করে অনেক কিছু নাচানাচি শুরু হয়ে যেত। This one is called Offering. This is the last one she'll read, and this is an offering to all of you for humanity, for healing the fractured world, and we're just going into some kind of spiral that we just need to hold each other's hand and at least give each other a hug. So I would urge you, all of you at the end of this, just at least touch your neighbor's hands on either side or give them a hug. It'll do wonders for everybody. offering. এটা তো মাঝে বলছি. This boy sings like a dream. I've just met him in the afternoon and he'll do the second part of the evening. এটা কি বলে? Offering. The kindness of libation, lyric and blood. Her endless notes left for me little secrets, trills recorded on blue and purple parchment to be lipped, tasted, devoured. Only the essence remains, its stickiness, its juice, its memory. Seamless juxtaposition, the brute and the passion, dry of the bone and wet of the sea, coarseness of the page and smooth of the lips iridium. I try and trace a line, a very long line. The ink blots as this line's linear edge dissolves and frays, like capillary threads gone mad, twirling in the deep heat of the tropics. Threads unraveling, each sinew tense with the want of moisture and the other's flesh. There are no endings here, only beginnings. Precious incipients, translucent drops of sweat, perched precariously on a collarbone, waiting to slide, roll unannounced into the gullies that yearn to soak in the rain. Heartbeats shift the shape of globules as they alter their balance and color, changing their very point of gravity, constantly deceiving the other. I stand wanting more of the bone's dry edge, the infinite blur of desire, the green, the wet, the salt, the ink, and the underside of her skin.
Offrande, libation, eau des sangs, leur gentillesse, les mots innombrables qu'elle me laissait. Grâce, petit secret, précieux parchemin, bleu et mauve, à mettre en bouche, déguster, dévorer. Me reste de l'essence, sa consistance poisseuse, ses sueurs et sa mémoire. Juxtaposés sans démarcation perceptible, le brut et la passion, le sec de l'os et l'humide de la mer, la rougosité de la page et l'iridium doux de la plume. Je m'essaie à tracer une très longue ligne. L'encre fait des pâtés et les bords s'effilochent. Vaisseau capillaire, on croit à la folie, tournoyant dans la chaleur des tropiques. Toute fibre dénouée, le moindre nerf tendu par la soif de l'humide et la chair de l'autre. Pas de fin à ceci, seul des commencements, précieuse émergence. Des gouttes de sueur limpides, des perchoirs précaires, des éclavicules prêtes à glisser, roule sans crier, garde dans un caniveau qui serait engorgé de pluie. Le rythme du cœur change, les globules se transforment, modifient proportions et couleurs, déplaçant leur propre centre de gravité, induisant erreur sur erreur. J'attends, je reste là. Je veux encore du pavé, sec de l'os, du flou infini du désir, du rêve, de l'humide, du salé de l'encre, dessous de sa peau.
Thank you. So since we are in the French Quarter, I thought I'd bring something that has a direct French connection. This poem is called Jacket on a Chair, and it's inspired by Cézanne's eponymous painting, Jacket on a Chair. And there's a whole subgenre in poetry called ekphrasis verse, which is where a poet responds to pieces of art, painting, music, or dance, but specifically paintings. So this one is part of that series. Jacket on a Chair. You carelessly tossed the jacket of a chair, the assembly of cloth collapsed in slow motion into a heap of cotton freshly picked from the fields like a flesh without a spine. The chair's wooden frame provided a brief skeleton, but it wasn't enough to renew the coat's shape, the body's prior strength, or the muscle to hold its own. When one peels off one's outer skin, it is difficult to hide the true nature of blood. Wood, wool, stitches, and joints, an epitaph of a card player's shuffle, and the history of my dark faith.
Reste sur une chaise. Tu as sans gêne jeté la veste sur une chaise. L'assemblage d'étoffes s'est avachi au ralenti en un tas de coton cueilli de frais dans les champs, chair sans épines dorsales. L'ossature en bois de la chaise procura un succinct squelette, quoique insuffisant pour redonner sa forme à la vie, au corps, sa vigueur antérieure, aux muscles son maintien. Quand on pèle sa peau, il est difficile de cacher la vraie nature de son sang. Bois, laine, point et couture, épitaphe. Du battage d'un joueur de cartes et l'histoire de ma foi secrète.
This is a poem I wrote for Mom when she expired over 10 years ago. And it was a sudden demise, and as the eldest child, you have a lot of responsibility and so on. But even though in an Indian setup we are very close to our family, there's a lot of love, affection, and support system, I found it really trying and testing after my mother's death, because the entire community and the fabric of society took over. I did not have. It took me about 2 or 3 months before I could even have some quiet moment to grieve. First of all, I had to go to the municipal offices to get the death certificate in triplicate. My mother had died already, but she's not officially dead until I can show the papers and get her body out of the hospital. I can't book a slot in the crematorium because the paperwork is not there. So this is the sort of strange setup we live in, where we rejoice at one level and then the bureaucracy and the sort of paperwork completely kills everything. So this is just called Ma. Her name was Ratna Shen, and my Bidu was a deputy of the ashram long time ago. So I remember coming as a little boy, and my only visual memory I have are the street signs, which was in French and Bengali. Now it's changed to French and Tamil. I wish I had a cell phone then and I could have captured those, but it used to be Bangla, at least certain parts of it. This is simply called Ma. As if in a dream, you disappeared unannounced, untimely and unprepared. The handwritten diary you left behind weepingly revealed your sordid, searing pain. Grief-struck, I run around the city's municipal offices, rummaging through bureaucratic files, seeking your death certificate for validation, as if losing you wasn't loss enough.
Ma mère, comme dans un cauchemar, tu as disparu à l'improviste. Fin prématurée, cueillie à froid. Le journal manuscrit que tu as laissé divulgue tristement ton infâme, ta fulgurante douleur. Éploré, je cours en ville des bureaux d'état civil, fouille dans la paperasse bureaucratique, cherche à faire valider ton acte de décès, comme si ta perte, ce n'était pas assez perdre.
This one's called banyan, and this banyan tree, of course, belonged to my in the grounds of my grandparents' house, my parental grandparents' house, which was later in Bankura. We had homes in Puritpur and Bankura, of course, after the partition. They moved to one side. And as a child, again, banyan trees, this was the most magical place to play hide and seek. It's only later that the resonances of all the tertiary roots and so on has a beautiful filtering effect on it later on. It's almost like a human windpipe at one level, or so many things. Banyan. As winter secrets melt with the purple sun, what is revealed is electric. Notes tune unknown scales, syntax alters tongues, terracotta melts white, banyan ribbons into armatures as branch loops twist, meeting soil in a circle. Circuits glazed under cloth, carrying alphabets for a calligrapher's name. Italicized in invisible ink, letters never posted, cartographer's map uncharted. As phrases fold, so do veils.
Le banyan. Quand les secrets de l'hiver fondent au soleil incarnate, ce qui s'ouvre est électrique. Les notes composent des gammes inconnues. La syntaxe altère les langues. La terre cuite fond blanche. Le banyan s'arribanne d'armature. Ses branches assignent sur câble rejoignent le sol en cercle. Des parcours brillants sous l'étoffe portent des alphabets à la plume d'un calligraphe, italique d'encre invisible, lettres jamais postées, carte du cartographe inexploré. Les mots ondulent, les voiles aussi.
Thank you. You both have such beautiful voices. Better than what I wrote, right?
Seema incidentally was the cultural head for the Alliance Française in Chennai.
Okay.
So obviously she's, and then she's of course her husband who's a renowned economist, French
She's crossed
economist.
the border. She's married a Frenchman.
Who generally translates your poems into French? Is there any one?
So there's one, the primary translator is a man called Bernard Tour. He's a very, very famous translator. He's translated Paul and Rushdie and most of the Indian big novels he's
Some of
translated.
them are absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, I have to say that we did a whole tour of 2 months in France, and he's an old-fashioned kind of publisher and translator. So he had this little buggy, and he packed it with 2 cases of red wine, and off we were on different bookshops and some very grand venues and so on. Had a blast, a beautiful time, and he's really something else. And there are some other translators also who translated my work over the years, but he polished those. But he's the main translator, Bernard. There were some points which were also going to be read in Bangla, but some people chickened out with the excuse that they are not carrying their classes. I'm not going to name them. They're very beautiful, stately people sitting in the room. So I do a second best thing. I translate from Urdu, Bangla, and Hindi. And I have to admit, I have to put my hand up and say I'm a better poet in the English language because I translate from these languages. So I have 3 or 4 mother tongues. So in Kobitata, of course, growing up as a Bengali in a Bengali household and in a Bengali pada, which is Chittaranjan Park in Delhi, Tagore was oozing out of every orifice. To the point that as a child you are rebellious, so you don't want to like Tagore. Of course, much later as an adult, my father and I have translated Tagore, and my engagement with Tagore as an adult is much more serious. But at that time, I used to adore Jivananda Das and Qazi Nazrul Islam. And this is, of course, the classic poem, Bonanata Shem, which many of you probably know by heart. It's been translated apocryphally I'm told, it's only second to the Bible that this poem has been translated in terms of number of times and number of people. But I have to say all the translations I've seen in English are very, I mean, the good ones tell the story of the poem well, but the Rosh is not there. You know, the sort of cadence, the goosebumps you get in Bangla. So this is my translation, and I'll end with that. Bangla Tamladina. So this is just.
Anybody willing to read the Bangla?
Bangla Anybody wants to read the
If
original?
there is anybody who is willing to read, next I can offer my spare.
Anybody? It's all right. Everybody knows.
Okay.
Jivananda Das, Aurodhan.
বাংলাতে একটা পড়বে। কে পড়বে? একটা পড়ে নাও না বাংলাতে। যদি পড়তে পারেন just গিয়ে সুন্দর লাগবে। Yeah, so there we are. Right from
I don't want to read it because I've translated the poem, so it's nice to have a written voice.
once you do it then.
I'll read the translation.
মনোলতা সেন, জীবনানন্দ দাস। হাজার বছর ধরে আমি পথ হাঁটিতেছি পৃথিবীর পথে, সিংহল সমুদ্র থেকে নিশীথের অন্ধকারে মালয় সাগরে অনেক ঘুরেছি আমি, বিম্বিসার অশোকের ধূসর জগতে। সেখানে ছিলাম আমি আরো দূর অকারে বিদর্ভ নগরে। আমি ক্লান্ত প্রাণ এক, চারিদিকে জীবনের সমুদ্র সফিল। আমি দুদণ্ড শান্তি দিয়েছিল নাটোরের বনলতা সেন। চুল তার কবেকার অন্ধকার বিদিশার নিশা, মুখ তার শ্রাবন্তীর কারুকার্য। অতি দূর সমুদ্রের পর হাল ভেঙেছে নাবিক হারাইছে দিশা। সবুজ ঘাসের দেশ যখন সে চোখে দেখে দারুচিনি দ্বীপের ভিতর, তেমনি দেখেছি তারে অন্ধকারে। বলেছে সে, এতদিন কোথায় ছিলেন? পাখির নীরের মতো চোখ তুলে নাটোরের বনলতা সেন। সমস্ত দিনের শেষে শিশিরের শব্দের মতন সন্ধ্যা আসে, ডানার রোদ্রের গন্ধ মুছে ফেলেছি। পৃথিবীর সব রং নিভে গেলে পাণ্ডুলিপি করে আয়োজন, তখন গল্পের তরে জোনাকি রঙে ঝিলমিল। সব পাখি ঘরে আসে, সব নদী ফুরায় জীবনের সব লেনদেন। থাকে শুধু অন্ধকার, মুখোমুখি বসিবার বনলতা সেন।
What's your name?
শাশ্বতী পাল।
She's clearly done this before. I mean, she just stood there. Bonolata Sen incarnate. I wish I knew her. You know, we share the same surname, but if I fell in love and she was part of my family, it would be incest. But this is the only time I would have said yes. I would go for it.
We really doubt that this was rehearsed. we really feel that this was rehearsed. She did it so well.
Yeah,
Actually, this is her common poet.
She likes the poem.
So the translation, which can never be as beautiful as the original, but I think it's beautiful because I actually mapped the entire notation of the Bangla, the cadence and the beats and the ions and the dactyls, and first made a grid in English to see what the Bangla is, and then when I translated it into English, matched the mathematical grid with this, which hasn't been done before. Bonolata Sen. For 1,000 years I've walked this earth's passage by day and night. From Lanka shores to Moloy's vast seas, I've traveled much, been a guest at Bimbishar and at Ashok's courts. stayed in the distant nights in the town of Bidholho. I'm long worn out. Around me waters of sea and life have endlessly swirled. My only peace, a fleeting moment snatched with her. Natore, Bonalata, shame. Chultar, Kobekar, Ondhokar, Bidishar, Nisha, like the dense ink night of Bidisha, her hair black, deep black, her face like the delicate weave of Shrabosti's filigree frieze. Just as a lost boatman, rudderless, tossing in the far seas, chances upon a lush green isle of spice, I too got a sight, saw her, a mere glimpse in the dark. Gently raising her eyes like a bird's nest, she whispered, "Where were you all this while?" And there she stands at my dream's end, my own Bonalata shame. With soft settling hiss of dew, evening closes the day's end. Kites erase from their wings sun-stained smell of flight. When colors of the earth gently fade, fireflies light up their palette, and old songs find new lyric, old stories new score. Birds return home, so do the rivers, as life's trade, its give and take ceases. Only the dog stays, and just as it remains, so does, sitting by my side, face to face, my own Bonalata shame.
Thank you so much for this wonderful poetry. As Aurodhan said, that poetry is the highest form of speech. I want to thank Satyakam and Seema for this wonderful collaboration.
Because you hear the sound of a lone rustling leaf, you hear the sea.